you so much. Brought my clock, because you don't have one. And no telling. And I'm used to my headset, so sometimes I do something like that, and the sound goes away, but I'll do my very best to do this. So, and yes, thank you, Lindsay and Dennis both, because if that doesn't set the stage for you, sorry. Probably so, you know, we're teaching of practicality. Is that right? And I'm going to give you something you can use, as Reverend Sean does every Sunday, because this is not an intellectual endeavor. Yeah, we can read and study and intellectualize something to death, but it's really of no value. To me, it isn't of any value unless I can use it. Unless I can use it every day, and especially on those days that are a little more trying than other days. Because if the spiritual teaching isn't available and doesn't help you when you need it, I mean, what good is it? So I got good news. Really good news.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. The title of the talk, Recognition, Realization, and Acceptance, kind of gives it away.
Yeah.
This is my simple formula for handling all things that can possibly happen to you in the course of a lifetime.
That's good.
Recognition, realization, and acceptance. Very simple. I mean, isn't that simple? Please note I didn't say easy. You know, we have this wonderful thing that we use to communicate, language, right? And language has its limits, and sometimes we bump up against those limits without even realizing that we are. But lots of words, like simple and easy, for example, if they were people, simple and easy, they would sometimes be twins. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
I mean, we say that, oh, that's so simple, oh, that's so easy. Whereas, you know, Aunt Geneva would say, oh, it's just so terribly simple, just follow these directions. Or it's so easy that even you can do that, to me. But sometimes they're not twins as much as they are like distant cousins. And other times they would be like total and complete strangers, one to the other, right? I mean, sometimes it is the case that simple by no means includes or points to or directs you to easy. Because easy is just easy, right? Easy means no work involved, no process. It's just, there you go. Simple means it's simple in that if you do these 3 steps, all the wonders of life are available to you. Every possible good, every imaginable thing from that infinite field of potentiality in which we are immersed is ours for the taking. If we follow these steps, it's that simple. But I think you'll agree, not everything that happens to us is easy. We'd like to think it is, but you know, just a quick show of hands, who's lived their entire life and had everything come to them super easy and never had a problem? I don't think so. It doesn't work that way. But when things become untoward, possibly, when we fall back on this very simple, straightforward process of recognition, let's start with recognition. It's really just the recognition that, as Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, that there is a power in the universe greater than you are and you can use it. There's a power greater than I am and I can use it. He did say also this is a power for good. It must be a power for good. If it was not a power for good, it would have self-destructed millions of years ago. And there can only be one power, Because if there were competing powers, I mean, it would be back and forth, flip-flopping, and that's not the way it is. The power that possesses us and that we possess in turn is a life-giving, life-sustaining power, and it provides everything we want. When we come to this plane of existence, when we end up here on earth, we are sent here with every possible thing we could ever need for a total and complete, beautiful, 100% satisfactory existence. And sometimes we lose sight of that. And sometimes we bog down in things that maybe don't lend themselves to that. Because in spite of our very best intentions, still things happen, as the bumper sticker says, right? Stuff happens. And when it does, we just simply have to recognize that our place in the divinity of all that is such that nothing that happens can affect the essence of who we are. Nothing that happens can hurt us. Can it cause us consternation, pain even, on the human level? Well, of course it can. And make no mistake about it, we might be spiritual beings, well not might be, we are spiritual beings, but we are having this human existence, so we have to put up with the human side of what we get when we come here. And in fact, our job, our purpose, our charge is to put up with that and make the very best of it that we possibly can, to be always living our highest and best good, and be always pushing for that highest and best good for humankind. It's like this giant rocket ship. You know, we're heading back to that divinity from which we've come. We are in, it's tough to get your head around sometimes. We're always within this divinity because there only is one life. And as Ernest Holmes again said, there's only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Well, it's not just my life now. It's always been my life. There's no other life. And as we head in that constant upward, expanding direction, I'm sure little things fall off here and there. But we as a human race are coming back to that grandiose divinity from which we came, which we started, and where we constantly live and move and have our being. So we just have to recognize that there is this power, that we are part of it, and this power is ours to use if we just set our mind to the realization of how it works. And here's how it works. Because it works the same way every time, all the time. God is not just love, the love that is everything. It's true, that is what God is, but God also controls that love, if you will, by way of the spiritual law. So, the law works this way. When we form a mental idea, or if we embody what it is we want to have, the way that we want to live, the way we want life to show up for us, we think that thought into the one mind, the one mind that creates everything, and that mind has no choice except to give it to us exactly as we. Sometimes I say presented it, but I always mean demand it. You know, I always say let's make our demand upon the universe. And I think I've got the right to do that. And I think you've got the right to do that. I think everybody has the right to do that. Because we are divine beings, we're made in the image and likeness of God, which means we are co-creators. It means that we think our thoughts into that one mind, the only mind there is, that huge expansion of that part of the mind that we use personally, because what we use is just part of that entire divine mind. And when we make our demand upon it, when we put our form, if you will, into it, saying, replicate this, the law has no choice but to say yes. The spiritual law never, by the way, says, gee, I don't know, Bill, are you sure that's what you want? I think if you think about it, you really wanted this. No, it doesn't work that way. And I say that just by way of letting you know that song that's saying, our thoughts are prayers and we are always praying. It's true, we're always thinking. Can you think of any time when you weren't thinking? I mean, can you think of any time when your mind was just blank and you said to yourself, self, I'm not thinking? Of course, as soon as you say that, you understand that you were, or you wouldn't have been able to say that. So we're always thinking, we are always forming concepts, we are always putting our thought out into that divine mind, which is going to create as we present, as we demand. So if the preponderance of my thoughts are positive, uplifting, loving thoughts, guess what kind of world is going to shape around me? A positive, loving, uplifting world. You ever known anybody, with the woe's me, oh shucks, man, let me kick my dog, the ball always takes a bad bounce, nothing goes my way, there's always a little rain cloud above my head. Things just aren't going to work out for me. You know anybody like that? And guess what? They're right. Things don't work out for them. They just don't. Because they insist that things do not work out for them. That's the demand they're making upon the universe. So when we recognize that all the power that ever has been is ours to access, and we realize how it works simply by our thoughts producing that, then all we have to do is sit back and accept the good that is ours. If what we are accepting is not our good, whose fault is that? And again, I would like to add that we can be doing everything just exactly right to our formula, and still all at once, earthquakes happen, floods happen, hurricanes happen, things happen. And our charge at that point is to continue to be who we are in the overall context of things. And in that manner, we will weather whatever has happened. And that's not to say that we want to bog down in the past. Something happens to us, and so, we say, oh, I hope that doesn't happen again. We don't want to get... Does anybody wake up every morning and say, thank God it's nice to be alive? I hope something untoward happens to me today so that I have something to overcome, that I can get my spirituality going. We don't really do that. But when something does happen that we need to overcome, if we are in the practice, that's the way we call it spiritual practice, if we're in the practice of seeking the high road, of seeing the good, of seeing that little bit of, that little pearl that's in every occurrence, then we can focus on that, and we can use that as a strength to continue being on the right road rather than getting lost in it. So that's not to say we don't completely forget everything that happened in the past. The idea is we want to draw whatever message there is from that. Get an example. There's a story of two hunters. I'm not a hunter, by the way. But they go up into the wilds of northern British Columbia, where it's all forest, and they go up to, as hunters would say, bag a couple of big moose. Yeah, I might say they got to shoot them, kill them, maybe even murder them. But the fact is, there are hunters, and that's what they did. These two guys, they take a little plane and take them up into this really remote area, And they each shoot 2 moose apiece. Big fellas. Well, they're getting ready to leave, and they're loading them up on a plane, and the pilot says,
Dudes.
we can't get all 4 of these moose on this plane. This plane just is not powerful enough to handle it. And boy, they just argued with him. Oh, that's nonsense. Well, last year, the guy that took us up here had the identical make and model of plane that you do. And he said the same thing, but we finally got him to let us put all 4 moose on. And so finally the guy said, okay, puts all 4 moose on. This plane's struggling to get up.
Crazy.
But after a couple of minutes, it just didn't happen. And the plane just right down into the forest. Well, they come crawling out of the wreckage of this plane, and they're looking around, and the one hunter says to the other, where do you reckon we are? He said, I'd say we're pretty close to where we crashed last year. So the idea is we want to remember things, but we don't want to bog down in them, and we want to remember them so we don't repeat them. Okay? And that's part of the acceptance. Accepting, I love the serenity prayer. I don't always get this right, but let me try. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. Yes. One day at a time.
So, we have to have the wisdom to know the difference, because some things we can't change. We can't change how much weight this little plane's going to take. And we should learn from the mistake of last year that, however, if we don't learn that we can't change that, then we're just bound to repeat it again and again and again. And who knows how many times we got to come back to do it again. I say let's just move onward and upward. Let's get into the acceptance part, because when we accept our place in the cosmos, and we accept ourselves as being those divine instruments, and again, this is kind of funny. We're instruments of the divine. Are we not? And God is in us. God works as us and through us. We got all this stuff going for us. But the fact of the matter is, we're not just expressions. Because when we say we're expressions of God, that makes me think that we're something apart from. We're expressions of, we're apart from. And we're not that at all. We're part and parcel of the divine. Everything we do is divine. And we just have to realize that's the way it works and accept that that's the way it works. And when we do, everything we could ever want just falls right in line. I'm going to break some hearts here. And I'm going to tell you, God does not have a plan for you. Or for me. Okay? There's not what you'd call a divine plan as much as there is what you'd call a divine pattern. Okay? It's a divine pattern. The world works the way it works, whether we're aware of that or whether we're not. So if we are ignorant of the way it works, and I don't know about you, but I lived my life mostly in that ignorance, for many, many, many decades. But if we were ignorant of the way it works, we can't make it work for us. If it does work for us, it does so by chance. It does so because it's an accident, it just happened that way. But when we know how it works, we can plan, we can fit in ourselves into that divine pattern, assuring ourselves that everything that is ours by divine birthright, which by the way is everything or could ever possibly be, is ours by divine birthright. And we can access that. We can't access that if we don't know that's the way it works. So, if it's not a divine plan, but it's a divine pattern, does that mean that somehow, sometimes you can kind of wind your way in and around this? No. The pattern's simple. there's another story about the Catholic school. They're not necessarily Catholic. Just think, but I use that because everybody, when you say Catholic school, that paints a certain picture in your mind, doesn't it? Yeah. So good, bad, or indifferent. And the kids are going through the lunch line. And at the beginning of the lunch line, there's this big basket full of apples. And knowing the kids as she does, one of the nuns wrote a little note on it that said, "Take only one apple, God is watching." So they get through the line, and at the very end of the line, right by the cashier, there's this big, huge tray of chocolate chip cookies. And one of the kids wrote a note and put on it and said, "Take all you want, God's watching the apples." Just another example of how it doesn't work. God is not watching one thing and not watching another thing. We have this divine pattern, and all we have to do is, it's like a game out on the playground. All we got to do is play within the rules. When we understand what the rules of life are and we play within them, we're guaranteed success. Are we not? We can just kick back and accept it for what it is. And accept we do. Even, you've heard of UPS, United Parcel Service, and there's FedEx, Federal Express. I recognize a thing called DivX, Divine Express, because it seems sometimes when I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, I'm thinking all the thoughts I'm supposed to be thinking, I'm in all the places I'm supposed to be, once I get this special delivery from the divine. It might be a crumpled right fender, it might be a broken wrist, it might be, a knee that's giving me problems. I didn't do anything, I didn't ask for this. But sometimes these things just show up. So when I recognize the possibility of that, and I realize that I probably can't just shake my head and deny it and say, no, it isn't there. How about these wondrous stories? Well, let me finish this first. And I just accept that it is. Then I can move beyond it in the quickest, easiest, simplest fashion there is. But how about these stories of people that they get an x-ray and they've got this giant tumor, or they've got, something really, you just throw your hands up and say, God, no way, this is it. And then once the doctor tells them that, they do exactly that. They say, ain't happening here. I'm a child of God. I'm whole, perfect, and complete. I'm healthy in every possible fashion. And this is not happening here. And what happens? It goes away. That's the pinnacle of demonstration, is it not? Unfortunately, as much as we would like to sometimes, it doesn't happen for us in every instance, or sometimes not in any instance. And I think that's kind of like, you ever played the lottery? Who's played the lottery? Then you buy the ticket, you have to pronounce it, right? You have to put that demand out to the universe. I bought this ticket, this is a winner, I'm going to win the lottery, I'm winning the lottery, I'm winning the lottery, I'm going to win the lottery. And come Saturday night, you get 0 numbers out of 7. You say, man, this science of mine stuff just doesn't work. That's a really good opportunity to be totally, completely honest with yourself. And because I know with me it's this way. I said all that. I'm going to win. These are the right numbers, I'm going to win. But somewhere in the back of my mind was this little voice that said, Bill, dude, there's 40 billion tickets out there. Really? What do you think your chances really are? So I'm saying one thing, but I'm believing another. Saying, and repeating affirmations is helpful if that gets you where you're going. But in the case of the lottery, when you're just repeating it, you don't really believe it. Because we don't get what we wish for. Right? We don't always get what we pray for. We get what we expect. We get what we believe we're going to get. And if what we believe we're going to get is the highest and best of everything, always, that is what we're going to get. Those are those people walking around and we know that we look at them and say, oh, dude, I'd rub some of that off on me. I want to live like that. And we can live like that. But on the other hand, if we don't believe it, if we just wish it, if we don't expect it, it's not going to happen. Because expectancy, belief in prayer, works 100% of the time. So when we realize that and accept that, knowing that 100% of the time, it's the belief that is embodied within us, that we know heart, soul, and in our DNA, that this is exactly what's going to happen. This is my work. This is what's coming to me. That is what comes. So we only have to, it's gone, I got it. We only have to recognize what's ours, realize how we get it, and lay back and accept it. When we do that, life is good. Thanks for listening.
Yes, Mayor.
Look at me packing my marbles up and going home. So, one thing about what we do here in Science and Mind is we love to pray. So let's just do that. Let's just go within for this minute and just realize there is nothing that is not ours to access. When we recognize the power that is, when we recognize our place within it, when we realize how it works, we simply say, as the Master Teacher Jesus did some 2,000 years ago, prior to accepting the good that was His and that is ours. Thank you, God. It's the belief, the expectation, and the gratitude for those things we receive that makes them available to us, that makes them ours when we realize this is who I am. I'm a child of God. I am a co-creator with the divine. Anything that's possible forever and always is possible to me right here, right now. I simply close my eyes. I place my thought by way of my mind into that one mind. That one mind that knows only to say yes, that knows only to produce exactly what it is I demand of it. It's knowing this is the case and knowing with this gratitude that makes all things possible. And I just say thank you, God. Thank you for the realization of this. Thank you for the acknowledging my divinity. Thank you for allowing me to be who I am. And for allowing me to be a part of this wondrous creation. This creation that includes all. This creation that is a circle of love. And I know that that circle of love is complete within me. I can never wander from its presence, nor can I wander from its care. It's always mine. The divine pattern is always mine. It is taking care of me at my direction. Knowing this is the case, knowing it's for me, knowing it's for you, knowing it is for all things, everywhere. I just give great thanks that this is the case. I acknowledge it. I'm grateful for it. I accept